Thomas Weston stood silently in the doorway, watching. His daughter, Emma, worked joyfully with her nurse. At 38, Thomas had built a fortune, yet nothing compared to raising his little girl. Emma was 8, bright, fragile, and brave. A wheelchair had become part of her life. 2 years ago, an accident changed everything forever. The same crash that took her mother away. Thomas had interviewed 12 nurses in quiet desperation, each one professional, but none truly connected with Emma. Until today, when something unexpected changed everything. The agency had promised a nurse named Allison Parker. But the woman with Emma wasn't Allison. She wore blue scrubs and a warm smile. Her blonde hair shimmered in the afternoon light. And Emma was laughing, a sound Thomas missed deeply. "Mr. Weston?" she said softly, standing from the floor. "I'm Harper Bennett. There's been a mix-up." Thomas frowned slightly, uncertain what she meant. "They sent me to the wrong address," Harper explained. "I was supposed to be on Maple Street, but your daughter opened the door, full of joy. I didn't have the heart to disappoint her." Thomas glanced at Emma, proud smile wide and pure. "Daddy, look! Harper helped me paint this." "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Thomas said, heart softening instantly. He turned back to Harper, curious yet cautious. "So, you're not Allison Parker?" he asked firmly. "No," Harper admitted, voice calm but sincere. "I should have realized sooner, but she was so excited." Thomas studied her credentials with a careful eye. Her experience was impressive, detailed, and compassionate. "The agency should have sent someone like you," he murmured. "I understand," Harper replied, ready to leave quietly. "I'll go so you can contact the agency." "No!" Emma shouted, her voice filled with urgency. "Harper has to stay. She promised to finish." Thomas paused, seeing life return to Emma's face. "Could you stay another hour?" he asked softly. "Of course," Harper said, smiling with gentle warmth. Over the next hour, Thomas quietly watched them. Harper turned therapy into laughter and color. Exercises became games. Pain became progress. She spoke softly, encouraging Emma without pressure. For the first time in months, Emma truly tried. When the agency called back, the confusion was confirmed. Allison Parker was elsewhere due to a clerical mistake. "We can send Allison tomorrow," the coordinator said. Thomas looked toward the laughter filling his house. "Actually," he replied, "tell me more about Harper Bennett." 3 days later, Harper officially became Emma's nurse. Thomas told himself it was a practical decision. She was qualified, steady, and remarkably effective. But deep down, something else had quietly begun. The house felt lighter, filled with laughter again. Harper brought warmth to spaces grief had hollowed. Each day, Emma grew stronger and more determined. "Today she stood 15 seconds, Harper said proudly. "That's 3 more than yesterday." Thomas's throat tightened as tears pricked his eyes. "She's incredibly strong," Harper added, voice soft with admiration. In the evenings, Thomas and Harper talked quietly. Emma watched her shows while they shared updates. Harper's stories weren't just clinical, they were tender. "She asked about her mother today," Harper said. Thomas froze, his heart suddenly fragile again. She wondered if her mom would be proud. "What did you say?" Thomas asked, voice trembling. "I said any mother would be proud of her." Thomas couldn't speak. Emotions filled his silence. Harper reached across and gently touched his hand. "You're doing an amazing job," she whispered. "Raising her alone takes extraordinary strength." "I don't feel strong," he admitted quietly. "I feel like I'm just surviving most days." "That's what real strength is," Harper said softly. "Showing up even when your heart feels broken." Their bond grew in quiet, steady ways. Boundaries blurred as friendship deepened into something tender. One evening, Thomas found them laughing in the garden. Harper pushed Emma's wheelchair along a winding path. Emma's small hand reached up to Harper's cheek. Harper bent down, hugging her with pure affection. Thomas watched, heart full and terrified at once. He realized with awe that he was falling for his daughter's nurse against all reason. The realization made him retreat, walls rising again. He became distant, keeping things strictly professional. Harper noticed but respected his silence gracefully. 2 weeks later, the agency called unexpectedly. "Allison Parker is available," the coordinator informed him. That night, Thomas sat beside Emma's bed. "Sweetheart, how do you feel about Harper?" "I love Harper," Emma said without hesitation. "She makes me want to try harder." "What if a different nurse came instead?" Emma's smile faded, eyes filling with fear. "Why? Did I do something wrong?" "No, honey," Thomas said, hugging her close. "Then why would Harper leave?" she whispered. "She wouldn't, unless we asked her to." "Then don't ask her to. Please, Daddy." Thomas held her tightly, decision made silently. The next day, he asked Harper to stay. "Is everything okay?" she asked, uneasy. "I need to be honest," Thomas began. "The agency called. Allison is available again. But I told them no. I'm keeping you." Harper blinked, surprised and deeply moved. "Thank you," she whispered, visibly relieved. "There's something else," Thomas said quietly. "I probably shouldn't say this, but I must." "I have feelings for you, Harper," he confessed. "Beyond respect, beyond professionalism. Real feelings." Harper's breath caught. Silence filled the room. "Can I be honest, too?" she finally said. "I have feelings for you as well. I've tried to ignore them. It felt wrong. But I care for both you and Emma deeply." Thomas felt hope bloom in his chest. "What do we do about that?" he asked. "I don't know," Harper admitted, half smiling nervously. "Maybe we take it slow," Thomas suggested. "We stay professional during hours, but outside. Dinner, maybe? As two people, not roles." Harper smiled. "I'd like that," she whispered. Over the next months, love found its rhythm. Harper stayed Emma's nurse by day, Thomas's love by night. They went on walks, shared laughter, and rediscovered joy. Emma noticed, eyes bright with understanding. "Does this mean Harper stays forever?" she asked. "We're taking it one day at a time," Thomas smiled. 6 months later, a miracle arrived unannounced. Emma stood by her parallel bars, determination blazing. She let go and took 3 trembling steps, straight into Harper's waiting arms, laughing and crying. "I did it," she whispered through tears. "Yes, sweetheart," Thomas said softly. "You walked." That evening they sat quietly in the garden. Stars shimmered where grief once lived. "A year ago, I didn't think we'd get here," Thomas said. "I didn't think Emma would walk again. I didn't think I'd ever feel hope again." "And now?" Harper asked, resting her head on him. "Now I feel peace," Thomas said quietly. "Because of you. Because of that mistake." Harper smiled, tears in her eyes. "It wasn't the wrong house," she whispered. "It was exactly where I was meant to be." A year later, Emma walked as flower girl. Her father waited at the altar, heart overflowing. Harper, radiant in a simple white gown, smiled. Thomas met her gaze, remembering everything. A clerical error, a wrong address, a stranger who became their healing. That evening, they sat quietly in the garden. Stars shimmered where grief once lived. "A year ago, I didn't think we'd get here," Thomas said. "I didn't think Emma would walk again. I didn't think I'd ever feel hope again." "And now?" Harper asked, resting her head on him. "Now I feel peace," Thomas said quietly. "Because of you. Because of that mistake." Harper smiled, tears in her eyes. "It wasn't the wrong house," she whispered. "It was exactly where I was meant to be." A year later, Emma walked as flower girl. Her father waited at the altar, heart overflowing. Harper, radiant in a simple white gown, smiled. Thomas met her gaze, remembering everything. A clerical error, a wrong address, a stranger who became their healing. "Love you," Thomas whispered as she reached him. "I love you too," Harper replied tenderly. "Sometimes the wrong path leads you home. Sometimes mistakes become miracles in disguise. And sometimes love finds you when you stop searching." When Harper walked into the wrong house that day, she brought laughter, courage, and healing to them both. What began as an error became their beginning, because life's greatest gifts often arrive unplanned. And sometimes the wrong address leads you home. Months passed and life found its gentle balance. The Weston home, once quiet, now hummed with joy. Laughter echoed through hallways that once held grief. Emma's art covered the walls, bright and fearless. Harper's touch lingered in every healed corner. Thomas had rediscovered warmth, trust, and gratitude. In the mornings, sunlight poured through Emma's window. She practiced her walking, one steady step more. Harper clapped softly, tears shining in her eyes. "You're getting stronger every single day," she whispered. Emma grinned, proud, unstoppable, full of wonder. Thomas often stood watching from the doorway, smiling. Each small victory felt every daddy look. It was life, messy, beautiful, and unplanned. Harper became part of their rhythm naturally. She cooked Sunday breakfast, braided Emma's hair. Sometimes she and Thomas read on the porch, saying nothing, just breathing the same quiet air. At night, Thomas wrote letters he never sent. To his late wife, to the woman she'd become. "Emma laughs again," he'd write, tears staining paper. "She's walking, and I think you'd like Harper." He'd fold the letters and place them in a drawer, a small ritual of love, loss, and gratitude. Emma adored having Harper around full-time now. "She's family," she said one evening at dinner. Thomas smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, she really is." Harper reached for his hand beneath the table. In that simple gesture, an unspoken promise lived. One autumn afternoon, Thomas came home early. The house smelled of cinnamon and paint. Emma and Harper were making fall decorations, leaves, pumpkins, laughter, the warmth of belonging. Thomas watched, knowing moments like this were everything. That night, after Emma fell asleep, Harper and Thomas sat in the garden again, the same place where honesty had begun everything. The stars glittered like memories waiting to be named. Harper leaned her head against his shoulder gently. "Do you ever think about that first day?" "All the time," Thomas said, voice filled with awe. "One wrong turn and you changed our lives." Harper smiled softly, eyes glimmering in moonlight. "I think the universe knew where I belonged." "And I think I finally believe in fate," he whispered. They sat there for hours, hearts unguarded, still. The night was calm, sacred, full of promise. For the first time in years, Thomas felt whole, not because life was perfect, but because it was real. A few months later, another milestone arrived quietly. Emma stood in front of her school assembly. No wheelchair, no hesitation, just pure courage. "I want to thank my dad and Harper," she said. "They helped me believe I could walk again." The room erupted in applause, loud and proud. Thomas wiped tears, Harper's hand gripping his tightly. Later that evening, as they walked home, Emma reached up to hold both their hands. "I think Mommy's happy for us," she said. Thomas looked at Harper, heart full of gratitude. "I think she sent you to us," he replied. Harper smiled through tears. "Maybe she did." Years passed, but that truth remained unshaken. Love didn't arrive in grand, planned gestures. It came through mistakes, courage, and second chances. Through the laughter of a child learning to walk. Through the healing touch of a nurse who stayed. Through a father learning to love without fear. Every anniversary, they visited the old agency. Thomas always smiled, signing the guest book again. "Still thankful for your wrong address," he'd write softly. Harper would laugh, brushing his arm lovingly. "Best clerical error in history," she'd tease. Emma would roll her eyes and hug them both. And when people asked how they'd met, Thomas always smiled before telling the story. "It started as a mistake," he'd always say, "but it ended as the best thing in my life. Sometimes love doesn't knock, it simply wanders in. Sometimes fate hides inside the smallest wrong turn, and sometimes the home you're meant for isn't found on a map, but in someone's heart." When Harper walked into the wrong house, she didn't just heal a little girl's legs, she healed a broken man's heart as well, and in doing so, she found her forever. Because the wrong door opened the right life. Because love, when unplanned, is often divine. And because sometimes miracles arrive disguised as mistakes.